So imagine a future where you literally don't have a family, like at all. You never age. The Sahara Desert is just entirely green, and the government, well, they literally do not interfere with your life whatsoever.
Right, which sounds, completely wild.
Yeah, totally wild. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we are unpacking this radically sweeping blueprint for humanity. It's a really specific, intensely thought-provoking text titled Six: The Future of Humanity.
Yeah, it was written by an author named Xuefeng, and the version we're looking at was translated by Kong Long.
Exactly. And our mission today is to just explore this text's wildly unique vision of, how humanity might actually achieve this era of total happiness, abundance, and absolute freedom.
And honestly, tracing the trajectory of this text is just a fascinating exercise because it starts with this deeply cynical critique of our current human governance.
Oh, yeah. Deeply cynical.
Right. And then it proposes a total dismantling of society as we know it and ends with a vision that includes intelligent robots and humans transforming into telepathic celestials.
Which is quite the leap. But before we dive into the mechanics of all that, I should probably jump in and set some ground rules.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea.
Because this source material, it touches on some incredibly charged topics, like very harsh critiques of secular governments, traditional family structures, and, well, organized religions.
Highly sensitive stuff.
Right. So to be crystal clear to you listening, we are strictly and impartially just conveying the ideas contained in the original source material. We are definitely not endorsing or taking sides on any of these viewpoints.
No, not at all. Our job here is just intellectual exploration.
Exactly. We're just the messengers trying to understand how this author builds this incredibly intricate and sometimes, frankly, shocking utopian world.
And it really does require a massive paradigm shift to understand. To grasp the end game of telepathic celestials and a green Sahara, we first have to look at the text's diagnosis of our present moment.
Right, the here and now.
Yeah. The entire philosophy rests on this fundamental diagnosis that the current structures governing human beings are just inherently doomed.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because you can't really build a massive new structure without first analyzing why the old one is collapsing, right?
Exactly.
The text basically argues that humanity cannot realize a beautiful dream of, like, a worry-free life by relying solely on human wisdom. Xuefeng is absolutely adamant that without the guidance of what the text calls the greatest creator, this utopian dream is just structurally impossible.
And the author doesn't just make that claim in a vacuum. The text poses a series of very pointed, really uncomfortable questions designed to expose the bedrock flaws of human nature.
Yeah, those questions are pretty intense.
They are. Xuefeng asks, will authorities simply step aside for others? Will rich men willingly contribute all their wealth to society?
Right.
And what about the underprivileged? If food and housing are totally guaranteed, will they actually work hard? Or will they just have more children and rely on the system?
Those questions target the absolute baseline motivations of our species. The text is basically arguing that the code of human nature itself is buggy.
That's a great way to put it. Buggy code.
It's like trying to build a perpetual motion machine using only rusted, broken parts. You can design the perfect machine on paper, but if the parts themselves are flawed...
The machine will eventually grind to a halt.
Right, or just tear itself apart completely.
Yeah.
And the text applies that exact logic to our systems of government.
It does. It systematically shoots down every human-led model we currently rely on. Xuefeng points out that if a single religion ruled the world, it would be a terrible outcome.
Basically a global theocracy stifling all thought.
Right. But then the text swings to the other side, arguing that if a single secular government ruled, the result would be autocracy and incompetency soaking up the blood of the underprivileged.
Yeah, that phrase alone, soaking up the blood of the underprivileged, it is such a brutal, evocative image.
It really paints a picture.
It suggests that centralized human power, devoid of a higher spiritual compass, inevitably just becomes a parasite on its own citizens.
And the text doesn't spare the current status quo either.
No, it doesn't.
It argues that if we just keep things the way they are, with different religions existing and independent countries acting on their own, localized self-interest, the world is just going to completely collapse under the weight of its own divisions.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what the author is doing here is utilizing a classic problem-reaction-solution framework, but on a cosmic scale.
Yeah. By methodically stripping away any remaining faith in human institutions, human wisdom, or human morality, the text creates this massive philosophical vacuum.
Secular globalism fails. Theocratic globalism fails. The divided nation-state model fails.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the alternative.
Exactly. If human wisdom is a proven dead end, a non-human or divine intervention basically becomes the only logical path forward.
And that brings us directly into the author's core prerequisite for survival. The text states unequivocally that the only way forward is to walk on the, quote, way of the greatest creator.
That is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of this entire utopian blueprint.
Right. And this is where the text introduces a concept that requires some serious mental gymnastics.
Well, for sure.
It states that under the guidance of the greatest creator, society is supposed to build a non-interference government.
A non-interference government.
Yeah, a government that promotes absolute freedom in politics, the economy, culture, thinking, and spiritual pursuit.
Okay, but hold on. I have to push back here, and I'm sure you listening might be thinking the same thing. How can a society be rigidly guided by a singular divine path, the way of the greatest creator, while simultaneously operating a non-interference government with absolute political and economic freedom?
It sounds totally contradictory.
It sounds like a massive contradiction. I mean, if there is only one true cosmic path, doesn't a government eventually have to enforce that path with laws and penalties?
Well, this raises an important question. That tension between a mandated ultimate truth and total personal freedom is the central paradox of a lot of visionary literature. Like, how do you mandate liberty without destroying it?
Exactly.
But within the specific logic of Xuefeng's text, it isn't actually a contradiction.
Really? How so?
It's because of what this spiritual alignment supposedly does to the human mindset. The implication is that true alignment with the Creator fundamentally alters the baseline of human nature. It fixes the buggy code.
Okay. Let me try out an analogy here. Think of it like removing all the traffic lights, stop signs, and speed limits in a major city.
Okay, I'm with you.
In our current world, with human drivers who get impatient, distracted, or aggressive, that non-interference approach would cause immediate fatal crashes.
Complete chaos.
Right. You need the heavy hand of the traffic light to force order. But if you magically upgraded every single car in the city to be a perfectly synchronized self-driving vehicle that inherently knows how to flow with the rest of the traffic.
The traffic lights become completely obsolete.
Exactly. The text is arguing that spiritual alignment makes humanity self-driving.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. I mean, if human greed, selfishness, and the desire to dominate others are eradicated from the inside out through this spiritual alignment, the external pressure of a government becomes completely unnecessary.
Because the problem is already solved at the source.
Right. You don't need a complex legal code against theft if the psychological desire to hoard wealth just no longer exists in the population.
Yeah.
You don't need an oppressive state apparatus to enforce order if everyone is internally and spiritually ordered. The non-interference government works precisely because the population no longer requires interfering with.
Wow. So it's a society of people who are self-governing because their internal compass is locked onto this divine way.
Exactly.
Okay, so once that spiritual and governmental foundation is laid, the text shifts gears and shows us how this actually reshapes daily human life.
Right. It gets into the specifics.
Yeah, it provides a highly specific, I think it's an 18-point list, a blueprint of future changes that touches on geopolitics, economics, and just total social restructuring. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The geopolitical shifts alone are sweeping. According to this vision, all distinct religions disappear entirely.
All of them.
All of them. Humans will only revere the one greatest creator, effectively eliminating all religious tribalism. Wars between nations cease, and no country will even maintain a military force.
Which naturally follows the logic of eradicating greed and the whole us versus them mentality. But the text also gets surprisingly granular about political mechanics, doesn't it?
It really does. It states that leaders will be elected directly by the people, with absolutely no minority manipulation.
Right.
And right in the middle of this grand cosmic vision, there is a mandate that every leader serves no longer than 2 terms.
It is such a striking juxtaposition. You have this sweeping spiritual revolution, but the author still installs a very pragmatic, mundane, fail-safe, like 2-term limits.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that the text also mandates a common Bill of Rights and greater freedom for journalists, specifically noting that this will curb the, quote, force of darkness in certain regions.
It's wild that a cosmic blueprint relies on such mundane bureaucracy. It suggests that term limits and a free press act as mechanical guardrails. Like, even if humanity is upgrading its consciousness, the text recognizes that entrenched power is inherently dangerous.
Right. The two-term limit is basically a physical mechanism to ensure that the code doesn't revert back to its buggy, power-hungry state.
The geopolitical reforms are really just the scaffolding, though. The social restructuring is where the text asks the most of its reader, I think. It demands a complete reweighting of societal values.
Oh, absolutely. Power and wealth are completely removed as legitimate life goals. The population's growth is strictly controlled rather than allowed to expand unlimitedly.
And there's a massive cultural shift in how work and worth are valued. A lazy person or someone living a parasite-like lifestyle is no longer just a drain on the economy. They are viewed with deep pity.
Yeah, pity. Not anger, but pity.
Meanwhile, manual labor is elevated. It is no longer seen as less decent than office work. Scientists and artists become the most respected members of the general public, prioritized over politicians or business moguls.
That recalibration of respect sets up the most disruptive element of the entire blueprint.
Oh boy.
Here it comes. Yeah. Once the text removes the desire for wealth and power, it inevitably targets the primary engine of wealth accumulation and tribal loyalty in human history,
The family.
the family. This is where the blueprint completely dismantles the structure of modern life.
It really does. The text states that family life is going to dissolve entirely. The relationship between men and women will show diverse forms, free from traditional constraints.
Right.
And most crucially, the care of elders and the education of youth will become the responsibilities of the whole society, no longer the private affairs of individuals or isolated family units.
The psychological and economic implications of that shift are staggering, if you really think about it. Historically, the nuclear family is fundamentally an economic unit.
Oh, completely.
It exists to hoard resources, protect its specific genetic line, and pass down accumulated wealth. By dissolving the traditional family, the text isn't just changing living arrangements. It is systematically dismantling the private ownership of relationships.
It's like tearing down the walls of individual houses to build one giant borderless commune. If your child is raised by society at large, and your aging parents are cared for by a collective system, you are no longer making stressful, survival-based decisions for your specific genetic line.
You aren't frantically trying to save up a college fund or pay for specialized elder care out of your own pocket.
Exactly. You are making decisions for the health of the entire whole, because society itself has become the sole family.
That eliminates the us versus them mentality at its most microscopic, intimate level. It removes the private ownership of generational burdens.
Generational burdens. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, when people are no longer crushed by the pressure of providing exclusively for their dependents, a massive amount of human anxiety simply evaporates.
Poof.
The text actually argues that crime and terrorist activities will decrease to zero, and this family dissolution is a huge part of why. The primary motivations for crime desperation, inequality, and the need to protect or elevate one's own tribe at the expense of others, they've been structurally engineered out of existence.
It's a breathtakingly radical concept, but just as you're wrapping your head around a world with no militaries, journalistic freedom, and the total dissolution of the nuclear family, the text just hits the gas pedal and rockets into entirely different territory.
It really does. It moves from pragmatic societal reform straight into evolutionary and mystical science fiction.
Right. So what does this all mean? We are shown the final destination of this massive shift. The text tells us that humans will be able to make new forms of life specifically. Intelligent robots will come into being.
Intelligent robots, yeah.
The Sahara Desert will return to a lush green. Earth becomes a harmonious paradise where humans no longer fight against nature, but live in rhythm with it, to the point where cranes fly peacefully in the sky around us.
Such a specific, poetic detail.
Yeah, and even natural disasters like earthquakes and floods, along with all diseases, will entirely vanish.
The physical transformation of the planet is paired with a profound biological and spiritual evolution, too. The text predicts the emergence of a large number of, quote, supermen.
Wait, Superman?
Yes, supermen who discover the hidden secrets of the brain. They find a channel to communicate directly with the greatest creator. They understand the secrets of time and space, they harness the power of the mind, and they even comprehend the cause and effect relationships of lives transiting in different times and spaces.
Which essentially points to understanding past lives and karmic cycles.
Exactly. These supermen act as the bridge to a higher level life space, pulling humanity's material and spiritual existence to an unprecedented level.
This is so wild.
The ultimate conclusion of this trajectory, according to Xuefeng, is that everyone eventually transforms into a celestial.
a celestial.
Yeah. Every single moment becomes joyful. People are reunited with deceased family and friends, living long, incredibly healthy lives while understanding the deepest secrets of the universe.
Okay, so wait. If I'm following the author's logic here, this jarring genre shift going from two-term limits to telepathic celestials stopping earthquakes, it actually makes perfect sense within the text's own framework.
Right.
These aren't two separate tracks. Because aligning with the creator theoretically removes our base survival instincts, the greed, the hoarding, the stress of the nuclear family. It entirely frees up human brain power. So
Exactly.
building intelligent robots, greening the desert, and evolving into telepathic celestials are actually all symptoms of the exact same spiritual upgrade.
That is the crucial synthesis of the entire text. In this worldview, technological singularity and spiritual transcendence are the exact same destination.
Wow.
Our current limitations, our inability to harmonize with nature, our vulnerability to diseases, even our subjection to natural disasters, they are framed as symptoms of our lower fragmented state of consciousness.
Because we are spiritually disconnected and constantly fighting each other for resources, we are physically and ecologically vulnerable.
Precisely. When humanity shifts its consciousness and aligns with this singular divine way, we unlock both our technological potential and our spiritual evolution simultaneously.
So the intelligent robots aren't just clever gadgets.
No, they are the result of a collective human mind that has been completely freed from the exhausting burden of survival and greed. And the greening of the Sahara isn't just advanced terraforming. It is the physical manifestation of a species that has finally aligned its frequency with the Earth itself.
The text implies a metaphysical connection between human consciousness and natural laws.
Yeah.
If we are internally chaotic, the Earth experiences earthquakes and floods. If we are internally ordered, the planet reflects that harmony.
That's exactly.
So the mundane political reforms we talked about earlier, the term limits, the free journalists, those are just the necessary runway.
Runway, yes.
You can't achieve telepathy, build benevolent AI, or understand the secrets of time and space if you are busy hoarding resources to feed your nuclear family while living under a corrupt, blood-soaking secular autocracy.
That runway is essential. The text makes it very clear that this entire celestial future is entirely contingent on that one core prerequisite. Humanity must walk on the way of the greatest creator.
Right.
And it ends with a stark warning. If we ignore this path, if we continue to rely on our flawed human wisdom, the text explicitly warns that everything will develop in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah.
Total collapse.
It is an absolute, uncompromising binary presented to the reader. On one side, we achieve a literal sci-fi celestial paradise completely free of war, disease, and the burdens of daily survival.
And on the other side.
On the other side, if we trust our buggy code, we face ruin.
Yeah. And while the solutions this text offers, like dissolving the family unit and transforming into telepathic celestials are, radically outside the norm of traditional political theory, it is vital to recognize why a blueprint like this resonates.
For sure.
This sweeping, unrestrained vision reflects very real, very modern anxieties that you and I grapple with every single day.
It holds a mirror up to the things that keep us awake at night.
It speaks to a universal fear of endless global conflict. It addresses the creeping terror of ecological disaster and a changing climate.
Yeah.
It targets the deep personal anxieties surrounding aging, disease, and mortality. And frankly, it speaks to the crushing economic and emotional burden of the isolated nuclear family in a modern economy.
It really does. The text looks at the immense pressure of simply existing in our current structures and concludes that mere policy tweaks aren't enough. The only way out of the pressure cooker is a total rewrite of the human experience.
It demands that we question the very foundations of how we organize ourselves, right down to who raises our children and who cares for our parents.
We usually like our societal diagnoses to be clean and manageable, We want to find the broken part and just replace it. But this text suggests the entire machinery of human interaction needs to be melted down and recast.
It is a demanding, vivid, and highly challenging piece of utopian architecture.
Well, as you go about your day digesting this sweeping vision of non-interference, governments, and celestial evolution, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Something to really think about.
Yeah, a question that builds on Xuefeng's blueprint, but brings it right back down to the reality of human psychology.
Okay, let's hear it.
If humanity were to actually dissolve the concept of the traditional family today, exactly as this text suggests, in order to free us from our generational burdens, what would be the very first thing we would inevitably invent to replace our fundamental human need for belonging?
Oof, a profound question to consider.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Keep questioning the blueprints.